Hey there Facebook, it is Vanessa here again, your motivational speaker, trainer and head coach from Live, Love, Give. And today I've got a message for you which has actually been inspired by one of my favorite podcasts that I was actually listening to this morning. And bear with me while I just share this across some platforms. But yeah, I really wanted to bring this message to you guys, and it's a favorite topic of mine, which is ultimately, are you going to be in relationship with people and have the accusation that they are innocent until proven guilty, or are you going to have the mindset of them being guilty until you prove them innocent? And so this is kind of what I wanted to speak to you guys about. And my favorite, well, not my absolute favorite, but absolutely one of the top podcast that I listen to is called Waking Up with Sam Harris. And I absolutely love this podcast because I love anything that shifts my current belief system, challenges it, wakes me up to something I didn't even know was going on, or didn't even know there were people really spending their lives work diving into. And it's always really, really fascinating, and I never know what's coming. But today's message was ultimately all about something that I'd never heard of before, and it was a scenario that happened, or a scandal that happened in the United States back earlier this year. And so all you US people, because it was, it was reported on nationally, you might know about this. I had zero idea until I listened to this podcast this morning. But ultimately it was called the Evergreen Scandal. And the Sam Harris, the host of this podcast, was interviewing Brett Weinstein, I think you pronounce his name, and he was at the center of this Evergreen Scandal. He was from the Evergreen State College, and anyway, I'm not going to go into the details exactly what happened, but at the end of the day, just to give you a kind of an overview, Brett Weinstein and his wife were kind of pushed out of the college because of this scandal. And what it really brought this message for you guys today, because at the center of the scandal was a new team or panel in the college, making some shifts and changes. And Brett Weinstein, he protested one of the changes that they were going to make. I'm not going to go into all of the nitty-gritty details of it, but ultimately it was surrounding racial equity in the college. And anyway, some people got gist of, the whole purpose of these shifts were to increase the equity in the college. And anyway, the actual way in which they were doing it, Brett Weinstein was protesting against. And so people got the gist of what was being protested about, and they assumed it was that he was protesting against equity, as opposed to getting clear on the details and doing their own research as to exactly what was going on. And ultimately it led to a bunch of different students showing up at one of his classes and fully protesting and trying to force him out of his position, which at the end of the day happened. And his wife, who was also a professor at the college, I believe a professor at the college, she was actually forced out of the college as well. And why I'm giving you this kind of quick backstory is because ultimately there's so many of us, and we do this every single day of our lives. We think we know what we're following. We think that sounds like a good idea. That sounds like a good cause. But we don't do our research before we fully invest and commit to just following. And this leads us into totally the wrong direction a lot of the time, because this man who, like I said, I had no idea of the backstory. I didn't know what the Evergreen scandal was, but ultimately me listening to and getting a new perspective, and then doing a little bit of research online, and then listening to this man and seeing him and hearing him talk about different topics, I could see that he is far from a racist human being. He is totally for equity, and that was the whole point behind his protest, because he felt that the new changes weren't equitable. And so this this fascinates me because people jump on board something that they think is because of equity, or they think is because of a certain idea that they want to support and follow, but they do it without fully researching and identifying who is this person. Is this mentality that I'm about to invest myself in, is it true? Is it the right thing to do for me? And what happens is, when we don't do the research, when we think somebody is guilty before we prove them innocent, we create a lot of effort in the wrong direction, and ultimately it leads to the wrong results. You know, this person, this Brett Weinstein, from my perspective, I have no idea, it's only very new to me, but from my perspective, he's an extraordinary human being who does want equity and was completely misunderstood from a bunch of people who got together because they thought, and they might have been well intentioned, that he was going against the very thing that they were trying to instill, but because they didn't do the research and because they deemed him guilty until he had to prove himself innocent, then ultimately, you know, it led to this whole array of, you know, bad scenarios that didn't need to happen. And so why I'm giving you this whole big story today is ultimately I want you to think about how you deal with not only the people in your life, but also the causes and the ideas that you are following in your life. The people you're following, the causes you're following, and instead of just following mindlessly and assuming everything about this idea must be right, you know, everything about this person, whatever they say, must be right. Or, you know, or a person in your life, you know, well, we'll stay with that scenario. Sorry, I won't go too off topic, but, you know, that scenario of assuming that that must be right, that must be the right path, and you don't do your research, I want you to question, where in your life are you currently doing that? Because at the end of the day, you might get so deep in that idea, that concept, that belief system, that person, that you might come to realize it's not actually aligned with your truth, and then it gets a whole lot harder getting out of it, and you find that you've gone down a completely incorrect path because you weren't willing to do the research in the beginning. And on the flip side of that, where in your life are you assuming guilt of people before you do the research and then you prove that they're innocent? And I want you guys to be more mindful. You know, this is the lesson that I'm taking. I really push myself to be as open-minded as absolutely possible, but I know a trait of mine is to fully be sold so quickly into things. Like, I know that, you know, if, you know, I can believe and I can buy into so quickly before questioning, and then it's later down the track I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I was wrong about this because I fully believed and I fully invested and I got caught up in the hype and this and that, and then I'm like, no, that doesn't actually work for me. And so that's a part of my growth that I've been working on, and I'd encourage you guys to do the same. So you either might be somebody who is just jumps on board straight away without doing the research and then figure it out later that you're on the wrong path, or you might be somebody who assumes that something is completely wrong or somebody is completely guilty, and again, you haven't done the research, and then you find yourself having to come back and see that, okay, maybe it was right, or maybe that person was innocent. And so the whole idea of today's message is to get you out of the assuming mind and get you empowered by going on your own journey of discovery. Before you totally invest in this side or that side, do the research. Run it past your own experience. You don't have to commit to either side, but I would really want you guys to stay open-minded and do what is right for you. Don't follow the pack in either direction. Question everything with curiosity and an open mind, not deciding something's right or wrong and then figuring out how you're going to prove yourself right, but actually come into any situation that you're completely unsure of and come with an open mindset, with a willingness to be swayed in any direction. That is how you get real clarity. That is how you tap into real, authentic and aligned truth for yourself, and you don't go on the wrong pathways either direction. So I really hope that, this is kind of just a random Facebook Live for me, because I just listened. I was just been listening to this podcast this morning, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm interested in this. This resonates with me about how an amazing human being can be thought so wrong of, and all these different scenarios come into play because people don't do their own research to work out what's truly true for them. And there's a lot of people in this scenario who are having to backtrack, and because they made the wrong assumption and they assumed guilt instead of being innocent, and then until there is a proof of guilt, but being open-minded and willing to shift and change dependent on the new information coming in, running that through your authenticity. So, hoping that this was of value to you guys. I really hope it's got you really thinking about where in your life you are assuming a lot without doing the research. So always do the research, be open-minded, collect the information before you make that absolute decision in terms of which direction you're going to take. So definitely want to check in with you guys, but before I do, I definitely want to make sure that if any of you guys out there listening have not yet joined the Limitless Potential Inner Circle Facebook community, what are you waiting for? Please come on over and join us. Click on the link above and request to join. I'll approve your access. Amazing quality of human beings, just inching up to 3,000 incredible souls from across the globe who are all looking to reach a new level of their potential, and they want to support, encourage, and challenge you to do the same. So can't wait to go deeper with you in that room, in that group. So definitely click on the link and join. And I definitely want to check in with you guys. I just got the new iPhone 10, so I'm playing around with it right now. I think it's got a way better connection because I'm down here in beautiful Warrnambool, and I always have trouble with the internet down here, and I don't think I have it all today. So let me know if I have, but if you have any questions or comments, please drop them below now so that I can engage with you. And I've got Marco and Ram and Gary and Suzanne and Jeremy and listen to you again. I love having you here, Gary. Thanks for being here. And Jed, loving that you're enjoying today's topic. And Charlie and Jolene and Meha and Jared and Mandy, thank you for your constant positivity. Absolutely, Mandy. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so grateful that you're finding value in these messages. And Brooke and Caroline and Gordon and Liam and Judy and Al and Muratash and Luke, lovely to see you, and Chris and Leanne and Sumit and Paul and Alexandra and Peter and Jessica, and loving that you're thinking this was well said, Mandy, and Adrian's here, and Carly and Stephen. That sounds great advice, well said. Thank you so much, Stephen. Grateful that this has resonated. And Vince and Elonia, awesome guys. Well, and Ram, I love it. This is such a valuable subject, most needed for every individual who hopes to be a global situation. So many elements around to mislead, misguide. We need to have the right perspective, not to get carried away or varied away. Yes, absolutely, Ram, and that's what I'm all about, being open-minded and gathering the different perspectives. There's never just one side of any story ever, and in fact there's usually a multitude of different perspectives. So gather them up, and don't be one of those people who mindlessly just make an assumption because you want that certainty, you want to know now, and ultimately it leads you down a path that you find out later that it's just not aligned with your truth, and you're not feeling good about it, but maybe you're so deep that it's really difficult to get off that path. And definitely, I'm always talking about our relationships and our connections to other amazing human beings. Stop assuming guilt and then finding out that they're innocent. Keep in mind, everybody's innocent until you prove them guilty, I guess. But, you've got to get all sides of the story. You've got to get all perspectives. And I ultimately believe that when we get all perspectives, we have true understanding, and then we can understand that why a person does what they do, that what they do makes absolute sense to them. There is always reason behind what anybody does, and it's your job to discover what that is through open-mindedness and curiosity, and ask some questions rather than just assuming. And definitely, it's about making intelligent, informed decisions no matter what area of our life, and that's the way you do it. So, and Aaron's here, and Ram, yeah, you meant global citizen. Love it, absolutely. And Davey, thanks for joining. Anybody who's just joined me, I really hope that you catch the recording and get a ton of value from today's message. And I really hope it's triggered some of you guys to think differently about the different areas of your life, and in terms of, really creating more open-mindedness and gathering up perspectives before you make a decision. And Haru, thanks so much for joining. I'm just about to sign off, guys, so I am absolutely sending you all of my love, light, blessings, gratitude, energy, enthusiasm, everything extraordinary coming to you to wherever you are in the world today. I hope it's absolutely amazing and beautiful. It's actually been 38 degrees here. Yesterday it was steaming hot, but now it's just started raining, so it's weird. But I'm loving the variety, and I hope you guys are enjoying the world wherever you are. I'm signing off. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Can't wait.